And we're live because it's been a while since I've done shelf organizing, and I figure this is always fun to do live in case anybody shows up. But I have some books to move around because from my recent book haul, I have a bunch of new Vorkosigan books I need to put up, as well as some special editions, and I still have to edit my short about it. I got the new Eye of the World copy, so I have some stuff to move around. Gotta have to figure out where it is all going to go, and I don't really know yet, but we'll figure it out together. Um, Assuming anybody happens to happen by here. So I'm doing headphones instead of the microphone so that I can walk around still and move about freely and still be able to talk and hear. So, with no further ado, I'm going to get started here. I think I'm going to do the Vorkosigan books first, just because I know exactly where those are going to go, at least, because we already have the Vorkosigan books that I have in hardcover on the shelf. So just need to get the new ones also on the shelf. And I did finally get a copy of Memory, which was the last one that I needed. But I'm going to have to see, because I don't know if these do fit on the shelf. It's going to be like all of them taking up like an entire shelf, because there are quite a lot of them. Um, that sounds way less fun to me, honestly. Sounds way less fun. All right, I need to actually look up the. I need to actually look up the order. And because I don't remember. I remember some of them. Starts with Shards of Honor. I think a couple of these I actually have to open up because they have some plastic on them. Shards of Honor being one of them. But I'm very unprepared to actually open it up. I'm sure I got something I can open them up with. There we go. See, this is what happens when my wife logs into a live stream. I mean, but then there won't be books. Come on, I gotta stay on brand. Gotta stay on brand. Okay, so we have Shards of Honor, which is first, and then Barrier is second, and then it is Warrior's Apprentice, which I just had somewhere. I'm gonna remix. So these are the ones. Oh, that one's got plastic on it too. I can't sit books all over the counter. They'd probably end up getting wet. Come on. Just got to be reasonable here, people. Come on. I have to say, some of the Vorkosigan books do have questionable covers. This is definitely one of them because, like, the central is kind of weird, but like this guy's face, really strange. I don't know what's going on here, and then also like all of the faces are super weird on this particular cover, but the sacrifice for hardcover. So I'm pretty sure it's the Vor game next, but I'm going to pull it up because I'm not 100% sure on the exact order. I believe it's a Vor game and then Ethan of Athos? Or no, Cetaganda. I think because I read them out of order. Shards of Honor. Oh no, I want. This is one of the few things I'm actually reading in chronological order instead of publication order, which, for the record, I very much recommend. Normally, I like to read things just arbitrarily in publication order, even if it doesn't make sense. For this one, though, I typically don't. It makes sense starting with Shards. And then I forgot about the prequel ones, which I actually haven't read. I'll have to go back and do these, but I started with just the mainline ones. But yeah, my light is pretty yellow in here. It's like it's not a bulb; it's a weird disc light, and I don't know if I can replace it. I went to replace it, but it's a weird yellow LED. So Dreamweaver's Dilemma technically goes first, and then Falling Free, technically. And I may stick with that order, but Dreamweaver's Dilemma was the only one I got that was still a paperback and not a hardcover. So we'll see, but I'm going to put them in order for now, at least. It's just a little bit smaller, but I'm probably still going to put it on top instead of next to. So we'll put Falling Free first, though, because that makes sense. We're probably going to have to take off the sharing knife and possibly World of Five Gods books. I have a heck of a lot of Lois McMaster Bujold books, and I'm slowly getting through Rose again, but that's the one I've really been focusing on. Now, these are unfortunately shorter than the standard hardcovers, but it's still like the only way to get them in hardcovers. Oh, Dreamweaver's Dilemma is still Lois McMaster Bujold. This is a prequel one. Oh, actually, it's a collection of short stories and essays that I guess on Goodreads it listed as like a prequel. But I grabbed it too because at this point I'm kind of just all in on Vorkos again. And so I figured I would go and just be like, yeah, we're just going to get all of them. I do have other stuff that's not Vorkos again. I just happen to have a lot of these books because I got them recently and I need to get them put away. Okay. So it is Vorgame next. And then, so Vorgame, and then Cetaganda, which Cetaganda is actually a different one. That wasn't one that they have, but I found that's also a different, wait a minute. Yeah, that is slightly different sized. Oh, that's annoying. But that's not from Nesfa. It was just a normal hardcover. Oh, and it's got this little sticker that won't come off. If Andrew was here, he would yell at me about Gugon and whatnot and using it because he's a pro sticker remover. But alas, I am not. So we're going to call that good for now. Okay, so Vorgame and then Cetaganda. And then Ethan of Athos is next. There's Ethan of Athos. So we slide these in. I'm going to put them in order even though Cetaganda's a little small, and we'll just see how it looks. It hopefully won't be that bad, but I don't know. So after Ethan of Athos, and that's as far as I got. Then it's Borders of Infinity. This is a super weird cover, and I'm very curious because I read Mountains of Morning, which is in here, but I haven't read the whole thing because this is like a framed narrative, and you're not supposed to read the whole thing until later. But Mountains of Morning takes place earlier in the chronology, so I did read that. And then Brothers in Arms. And then that's when we get to the ones I have in full-size hardcover. So then it's Mirror Dance, then Memory. Memory is a full-size hardcover. Oh man, but then we get to Komar, and Komar is not a full-size hardcover because it is also Bane though. Why is that so short? That's really upsetting to me. It's even a Bane one. I don't know why that one is short. That one and Cetaganda are short, and I might have to move that around because that's kind of really irritating me. So then a Civil Campaign, and then Diplomatic Immunity, Captain of War Patros Alliance, and then Cryoburn, Gentleman Joel and the Red Queen. So yeah, that's all of them. I think though, I really dislike having different sized books in order, so I might have to put some on top. So, is that the actual description? Um, that's really interesting. If so, it is sort of. Oh, is that in Dreamweavers too? I didn't know that actually. Um, it's in Borders of Infinity, but um, it is in Mountains of Morning, or Mountains of Morning is in Dreamweavers Dilemma. I didn't know that. So I will say, Mountains of Morning is one of my favorite things that I've read from the Vorkos universe. It is quite short. It is so good. It is sort of like a mystery, um, because it's the character is going to kind of a remote town where it's been reported that an infant was murdered, and they're trying to figure out what happened. So it's quite dark, but it is really good. So yeah, I do highly recommend it. Although it's not like you shouldn't start there, but in the actual chronology, it's pretty early on. Because it's you read the two Cordelia books, so Shards of Honor and Barrayar, and then Warrior's Apprentice, and then Mountains Morning. So you only need to read three books before you're technically at the spot for the short. But if you just kind of want to get an idea of the author, it's really good. That, and actually Ethan of Athos, which follows a completely like side thing, it was also one of my favorites. But they've all been very good. I've really enjoyed all the different Vorkosigan books that I've read so far, and I'm really looking forward to reading more in the series. So I think, though, because it's going to really irritate me to have the short hardcovers and the paperback, will they fit? Almost. Oh my gosh, they almost fit. That's so close. I just need like another small book. This is a real dilemma. Do I just put? What if I do put Dreamweaver's Dilemma on the side and put the other ones on top? That is technically first, so it would be somewhat more correct for order. Maybe that's how I justify it to myself. This is why it's book collector problems, but I really wish that you could just easily get everything in the same size. That will make it fit nicely on top with those short ones. That doesn't look that bad. I feel like you can almost not tell. You can kind of tell, but from the side it doesn't look too bad. The Master and Detective Sherlock Holmes pastiche last year. I do really need to go and read some more Sherlock. I have a collection of them, and I've read like some here or there over time, but it's not something I've read extensively by any means. So definitely is something that I need to try more of for sure. So that is most of that shelf. So now the question is, what goes up there? Because I don't have room for the rest of the World of Five Gods books. The Sharing Knife might fit up there, though. It does. So the Sharing Knife fits up there pretty well. So maybe I'll just bump World of Five Gods up a shelf and take some stuff. I do have some random stuff over here because it's just slightly off screen. So we'll scoot over Sarah Douglas. Do you even see? Yeah, you kind of see that. We'll scoot over Sarah Douglas and we'll put Lois McMaster Bujold up here next to Hanuvar. These are also, I've got differing sizes of these hardcovers, which also drives me just a little bit mad, but it's ultimately not the end of the world. Now this doesn't. Ooh, you know what? If I really, no, that's too wedged in there. That doesn't quite fit. I was gonna say I had Serpent War Saga just off screen up there on that side. Those are gonna have to move a little bit. So we maybe just put a couple of miscellaneous hardcovers, and then those fit. The Serpent War will just have to get bumped down a shelf. We're going to put that just on the bottom for now and keep that. That'll be fine off screen, I think. So what else do we have here? Let's see. I know I have some other things of varying nature. Do a couple of easy ones. I have the Book of Zur, which is the next bind up in Vlad Tolstoy, which I have been immensely enjoying. And I actually just pulled some stuff off this shelf. So I think I just have room to slot this in right next to the others because those are right here. Because I missed out. I'm going to have to order it later because I missed the campaign for the third Obsidian Path book in the Insanity editions. I missed the first one, but then I ordered it with the second, and I missed the third one, so I'm going to have to order it a little bit later and get it. But this should fit very nicely right next to the others. Oh, what is this? Tor, how could you do this to me? Why is Tor always betraying me? This is really upsetting because the Vlad Tauto series started being published by Ace. So Ace did the Book of Jarek, the Book of Aethera, and the Book of Taltos. They are all the same size. Tor took over and did the Book of Dragon. And wouldn't you know it, same size. But then, apparently, they decided for no reason to make the next one, the Book of Zur, taller. This is very upsetting to me. I didn't realize this was just going to be a stream of me complaining about books not being the same size. But here we are, apparently. So that means I'm probably going to have to put it on top, which I have some other books on top anyway, but I'm going to have to find something else to go in there. So we're going to set it here for now, and we'll move on to the next book. We have Artificial Structure, formerly known as the Moon, which is a weird size, and that at least I knew about. That might also become an up-top book, unless it does fit over here. Do I have room for another book in here? I do. I do have another room for a book. So we're going to slide this in here. That's by I.K. Stokbek, which she has a new book coming out, actually, that I'm very curious on because it was described as like sort of like the Fellowship from Wars of Light and Shadow, but if they like had no rules. And apparently it started as sort of a spoof, and that intrigues me greatly. So I'm very curious to get to that. That actually slots in nicely there, because that's a pretty thin one. Then we have my hardcover of the Voidwalker collection, which I replaced. I had the, this was originally a review copy years ago, and at the time it didn't have hardcover. It came out with hardcover, and so I wanted to buy a hardcover and join this because I like hardcovers, and hardcovers are better, and that's that. So I should just kick you from the stream is what I'm hearing. No, I'm kidding. But, you know, it's like, it shouldn't bother me as much as it does, but I'm very much, and I've seen other people who do they do series or they do other stuff and don't really care about size on the shelves. I like the sizes to be the same whenever possible. So like I try to, down to like the two different sizes of hardcovers, if I can help it, I like to have only the same size of hardcovers on a shelf. And it's kind of mixed up because there's a lot of them where I have authors next to each other and some of them are a little taller, but even hardcovers have slight differences. And I like to put books next to each other and I like them to look the same. So it probably shouldn't bother me as much as it does, but it just does. So this is the same size as these, but I don't know that I have room for another book on that particular shelf. And this is a little, I don't know, it's about the same size as like regular hardcovers. Those are also slightly, are you kidding me? I'm actually realizing even more of these than I knew because this is really upsetting to me. And I didn't even realize this. It looks like, oh, no, they were just sitting on the shelf. No, that is slightly, So this is literally the Sarantium series and the Sarantine Mosaic, and it's the same publisher, the same series, the same style, but for some reason, Sailing to Sarantium is ever so slightly taller. And why? Like, why are you doing this? Harper Prism, naming and shaming publishers today, apparently. Um, it really doesn't. It upsets me an unreasonable amount for sure. Multiple series that are different size. But yeah, and I get it. And when you kind of, it would be really nice. I would love it if I was more okay with that because that makes it so much easier. But like that's actually where the reason we started with Morcosigan is I had a super mixed set of Morcosigan books. I had some um, trade paperbacks, I had some mass market paperbacks, I had some full size hardcovers, I had some short ones. It was all a huge jumble. And when I realized I could get a set of like the early books in hardcover, I was really excited. And so that's where I got those specifically because I wanted them to match. And honestly, like Dreamweaver's Dilemma being there is slightly annoying because there's a little bit of a gap and the style's different. But the other hardcovers match pretty well, and then the two smaller ones fitting like perfectly right up top is kind of working for me. So it's not too bad. It definitely could be a lot worse um, overall. So I don't mind it too much. I am wondering though if I should move. Mm, no, it's fine. It's fine. We've already done that shelf. We don't need to do another shelf. Um, so I also have Over London by George Penney and Tony Johnson. And this actually was a review copy that was an audio, which very fun. This is one of the few things I've ever done that had the sort of humor as Discworld and actually worked. Because I feel like whenever people try to do Discworld humor, it does not work. It's very British humor, and it was just very different, and it worked so well for me. Very very fun audiobook, and I had just wanted to get a copy of this for a while. There were a couple of these that've been sitting like on my wish list of ones I wanted to get for a long time, and then after we finally sold our old house after moving, I'm like just a little bit, get my Vorkosian books, get a couple of other fun books, um, and go from there. So this is one of those also kind of awkwardly sized paperbacks though, for whatever reason. Is this the same size as literally anything on my shelf? I don't know that it is. What are we even doing here? So this might also be, I have to have something that's this size. The Judas Blossom is the same size, but that's also one that's weirdly sized, I guess. Yeah. These are the slightly taller than, I hate book sizes so much. So I have a bunch of books that are there's the slightly shorter paperback than these. And then like the UK paperbacks are a little bit shorter than that. But then it's not as tall as like a standard. Oh, is this the one? I wonder if these are the ones that are the same size as the smaller hardcovers I have up top. Maybe. Otherwise, there's a reason Judas Blossom is laying on its side on a shelf, and it was because it also did. Yeah, it's also not the same size. So Over London is going to be a side book too. Can you even? No, you can't even see that, which is a shame because it's a really fun book, but it's going to be a side book for now. That's where we need to go. I might have to actually do like a um, bookshelf tour again at some point because it's been a long time. So I am realizing though, when I was doing that this is probably the same size as these guys. Is it? So if I can scoot a book over here, we can slap this in. And I will scoot over this cool copy of The Golden Compass, which I've actually never read. So it'll get a nicer spot if I read it and I'm really enjoying it. But I've never actually read The Golden Compass. That's an easy one to move. There we go. That actually slots in nicely with my Mike Molman's. It's the same naked hardcover design. Um, That looks cool. I like that hit of purple that comes out on the shelf too. Really stands out a little bit, I think. Right. Yeah. And then up with the side books. Okay. Then we have the hardest part. Oh, we have. Yeah, that's been a huge struggle for me overall. Is finding older fantasy books in hardcover and then getting them in decent condition. And I am super thankful that I tracked down my hardcover set of Wars of Light and Shadow before the recent like surge in popularity, because I've heard just people have a terrible time trying to find them now. And I did not have an easy time, but I did find them. But like it to get a nice set of that, to get a nice set of Crown of Stars, I still will forever be thankful to Thina who sent me these hardcovers of Cold Fire trilogy, because this series it is so difficult to track down hardcovers, and these are both in like phenomenal condition too, which makes it even better. So I just kind of had resort like not resort. I was resigned to probably never having nice copies of these. Um, and so I have these, and then there's actually Grim Oak is doing the first book right now in a really fancy edition, which is very expensive, but I had to get because then I will have a nice hardcover of all three of them. But there's a lot of those series too, and like I've got the original Memories, Sorrow, and Thorn in a hardcover, and the second two books are pretty decently common enough to find. I found those in the wild, um, but getting a condition, Dragonbone Share original, in basically any condition is very difficult. This one is not in the greatest condition. It's like it's in pretty good shape, but it's very weathered. But this, thankfully, I got from Andrew because I would have not been willing to pay anything I would have had to likely pay to actually get that. But there's a lot of those too, where and I have that's where like some older series I get them in mass market paperback because I find them or I get them whatever. But if I can find like I've grown to accept mass market paperbacks a little bit more anymore. I'm still not a huge fan, but I've grown to accept them a little bit more, um, because sometimes that's just the only way to find them. But it's also like the taller I can get and the harder I can get, the better. Which that sounded weird, but I prefer, at least if it's got to be paperback, I prefer it at least be a tall paperback. And then if I can find a hardcover, I'd rather a full size. But even if it's like a shorter, like book club size one, I'm still like, okay, that's at least something. Um, so those are always good too. But it's rough sometimes finding them. And that was why too. I was really glad they did. Orbit did, and this was not allowed in the U.S. You couldn't buy this, so thankfully somebody bought Andrew and I a copy and was willing to ship, because I have this hardcover of Legend by David Gemmell, which is really nice. I really, really wanted to, because I'd love to have a hardcover set of Drenai. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I do have one of the later books in hardcover, and I have at least one, maybe two more that are ex-library copies that I don't keep displayed because they're not great, but I at least have them. But I have most of the series in mass market paperback. It is what it is. Gamma books are very easy to find in mass market paperback most of the time, but that's you sometimes just have to take what you can get. If you want, I have in a spare trade paperback of Trader's Knot. If you're interested, hit me up. You can have it for free. Janny sent me a big box of them. The hardcovers are sporadic to find for that one, but they do exist. They are a little bit shorter. Storm Fortress does not have a hardcover, though. It does not exist. This is actually a tall paperback. And they're not easy to track down either, but they do exist. Destiny's Conflict is a weird one because you would think that would be easier to find, but that actually was one of the ones I had the hardest time getting a decent copy of, and even the one I have is not the best. It's not terrible, but it's kind of like beat up in places. And I think my Initiate's trial is a little iffy, but I got a copy that was not as advertised when I got it, and the seller ended up giving me some money back. And then somebody offered to send me a copy, like, oh, I have a spare copy, and they sent me a copy that was in way worse condition than the one I already had. So it didn't really work out. But yeah, and if you're cool with tall paperback, I have an extra copy. I actually just gave away my second to last one, so I have one left. Um, but the thing with Trader's Not is a whole fun story. Well, not really fun, but a whole story because here's the tall paperback. It's actually the hardcover is a shorter hardcover, so they're not that far off in size actually. But so this Trader's Knot was published by the defunct publisher Misha Merlin, the same as To Ride Hell's Chasm. And Misha Merlin went out of business and screwed all their authors out of a lot of money, and then just left like uh, a whole building full of books just there, and so people were stealing them. And so some of the authors literally had to like go down to this warehouse and try to take their own books to get them. And it's like wild story. When Jeannie told me about that, I'm like, that is absolutely nuts. But yeah, they whole thing where that, and so that's why some of those are harder to find. But every now and then you can find basically any copy you find in the wild for sale is probably a stolen copy. Is the wild thing with those books because that's where most of them came. They'll pop up on like Book Outlet or something every now and then because a box of them will show up, but it's absolutely wild. So, oh, I clicked on that one already. Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was gonna say at that point, it likely for a free book, it would probably get pretty expensive. Um, I sent one. Actually, I sent one to someone in Canada, and they told me they were willing to pay shipping, but literally they live I'm in the Midwest. They live not that far from me distance. So to get an entire box of copies of Trader's Knot from Florida to me was a much shorter distance than it would have to go to get to Canada to where I was sending it by like a third of the distance. And yet the shipping was about the same for one book versus a whole box of them. And that's still wild to me. And I'm just like, yeah, so it gets kind of nuts with that. But hey, yeah, Ryan, hello, hello. Well, technically, I'm the original wizard. Um, Andrew's the one we got to brand wizardly though. So yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Um, if I could find, I really like the Daughter of No Worlds is like a semi-spicy romantasy, and I actually liked it. It had really cool world building in it. And the original indie cover is super cool, but the trad pub cover is super lame. So uh, I am, as I say, my wizardly powers are very much weakened by lack of sleep for a few years. But um, 'cause I have an over 2 year old now, so I actually get sleep again. But for a while, so I that was my wife commenting for the record too. She just comes in to razz me sometimes on live streams. But we made a deal at one time that she would read a book that I picked, and I would read a book that she picked. Now I gave her Assassin's Apprentice, a great book, and she actually really liked it. But then she made me read one of her like smut books. I hated every moment of it. It was not a fan at all. I debated on doing, and this was years ago, but I debated on doing a review, but I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do that because to even talk about it, I would have had to get way too inappropriate. But we don't talk about that. I did accidentally spoil something, and you felt bad. But so, oh boy, just tentatively, yeah. Um, that was I ended up DNFing the Books of the Damned because I read Electric Forest and I just wanted to try more Tanith Lee, and I just randomly came across the Book of the Damned, and I'm like, oh, Tanith Lee, I got it. Didn't look at even so much as the tagline, which talked about it being like erotic, gothic vampire stuff, and I'm like, I would have never picked it up had I realized. And it was all smut. It was just like gothic vampire weird smut. And like the writing was still good, but I could not do it. I could not get through that book. It was absolutely not for me. So yeah. I'm still very interested to try more Tanith Lee, but it will not be that series. I do need to get a copy of Electric Forest. The problem is you can, or at least you could. I don't know if there. I think they might not have any copies anymore because that's another one that's gotten more buzz. But you could get like the new cover of Electric Forest, which was super lame. I want the old school Don Mates cover, which is the best cover of that book, and it's just super awesome. So I really like it. So I do not want to do that. I do not want to do that. Also, I'm pretty sure I told you about it, but it was the first one. I think was called the Book of the Damned. No, it was Paradise something. Um, yeah, it was the Secret Books of Paradise was the series. The Book of the Damned was the first one, and the writing wouldn't work for you, I don't think, but it was really she's a phenomenal writer, and like her prose is great, but uh, that book content wise, not for me. Was not for me at all. So yeah, yeah, it's such a cool cover. So if I come across it in the wild, I'll be very happy. I'll be happy with it being a mass market paperback for sure. I won't have any complaints there. But we actually got through most stuff pretty quick. I do have other. Oh no, there's some more stuff over there. So we still have more stuff. But the hard things is I have to figure out. I got my Black Heart and She Dreams in Blood, which I was talking about earlier, and it's going to be a while before it comes out anyway. But I missed the campaign for the third one, and then to Sorrow, so I'm gonna have to get that later too. But these are super cool, and some of the most affordable special editions I've ever bought as well, because they end up being like I don't know, like $60 or something American. He's Canadian, and so really affordable. And then I have this Grandmaster from Mercedes Lackey, which is super pretty. And these need to find a spot on the shelf, and they're all sort of shorter. So are they the same size as? Oh, they are the same size up here. So this is where we get difficult because we got to take some stuff off the top shelf. Oh, and before I forget, um, there'll be whenever I edit it, there'll be a short about me complaining about this guy because I'm not gonna lie, super bland. It actually like when the light catches it, it looks cooler than it actually looks in person. But it's just like very bland, and I was very whelmed by this overall. But it's still gonna go on the shelf because it's a fancy copy of Eye of the World, so we'll have to get there. I was gonna say I do need to read Wagner. I've not read any of his stuff actually, but yeah, her prose is great. You don't like Red Queen's War? You know that is the last Mark Lawrence trilogy I enjoyed. I I quit after Red Sister, and on that one I didn't like the book that wouldn't burn, and I never read any of the others. And so I have they're slightly off screen, but um, I have the Broken Empire trilogy. I got standard hardcovers, and then the one and only book I've ever purchased from Broken Binding, and the source of my feud with the Broken Binding, is this Prince of Thorns book. But so I have those two. The Red Queen's War is Grimoak, and Grimoak is way too expensive, but they make really quality books. Now, as I was talking earlier, um, I just got Black Sun Rising because that just recently came out as available for pre-order, and after I absolutely loved Coldfire Trilogy, and I have the other two in hardcover I mentioned, so I'm excited for that. And then I also got Lions of Elberson, which also so expensive, but they make really good books. I wish Grimoak would get cheaper and not do the artificial scarcity thing because they make great books. They're just expensive, but Um, I like this copy of Red Queen's War because this is a trilogy, and this was only like $100. It was not nearly as expensive as what they do now. And granted, it is like it's signed, but it's not. It's a pretty standard hardcover. But I would absolutely be okay with doing like the kind of nice special edition omnibuses that aren't anything crazy. I would love that. I'd love more of that because I love getting an omnibus when I can. They're not as great for like reading necessarily, but because shelf space is at a premium. And I think they ended up charging more for the individual Broken Empire books than I paid for the three. So I'm just like, and they ended up redoing these, I think, too, fancier. I'm just like, I can't be bothered. I just don't need that much fancy. Um, no, that's totally fair. It's one of those things. I have not reread those books. I don't know if I would still like them as much now. But I mean, I'm probably team Mark Lawrence hater as well at this point, honestly, because I just have not really enjoyed any of his books that I've read in quite some time, honestly. I like Broken Empire and Red Queen's War. I wasn't like super crazy about them overall. They're not like top series for me or anything, but I definitely like them. But I've liked a lot of other stuff that I've done before. So we got to figure out what's coming off the shelf here. So we will probably take off. I have a few. Can you see this? No, you can't quite see. Let me just. You know what? I'm not actually filming a video live, so I can just turn the camera. Which why not? We'll turn the camera and we'll focus over here a little bit. And you get to sort of see the side of this shelf, which has a bunch of Wheel of Time symbols, which you don't normally see from the other angle. But we got my few Sandersons left that I put my Janie Wirtz art print over because I like to look at that more. Um, which this is actually from Trader's Not. Super cool print. This will at some point be a tattoo I get, I'm sure. But so yeah, we have a lot of the other sort of red colors. So honestly, like I said, even though I complained about this, but I had this. This was $25 at the time. This is not super premium um, in any way, but I just like compared to what I paid for this, it still feels nice. This is heavy though, I will say. The inside is really beautiful, but it is a little bit bland. So I think I'm just going to take some of these red ones off. So the Divine Comedy, which I still haven't actually read. This is another Barnes and Noble edition. Um, I haven't bought one in a while because they haven't come out with new ones, but I've got a bunch over time, and I have more that are somewhere. Where are the rest of them? I have more around here somewhere that aren't up here, and I legitimately don't. Oh, one of them's over there. You know, I get rid of a couple of them over time when I was downsizing my book collection, but there's there's some of them for sure. So we have Prince of Fools and Book That Wouldn't Burn. Yeah, Book That Wouldn't Burn to me felt like a Sanderson book, but more boring, I guess. It just I don't know. I didn't find the twist that compelling, and like it just was. I don't know. It felt very Sanderson-y, and that was I read that around the time where I was starting to kind of tire of Sanderson, so that might have had something to do with it too. But just man. Um, oh, the Glidey collection. I don't know that one, but all for not only omnibus, hardback omnibus. Sweeter words, man. I love to hear it. So I'm assuming that was Red Queen's War. Yeah, it's still pretty good. No, I can see that. That's totally fine. Um, I've got a tiny bit of bourbon left, which I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot it's there. And now the ice is melted, and it does not taste very good. Um, so over Sanderson. Yeah, so I'm definitely a Winded Truth hater, and not for the reason that a lot of people, because I still get comments uh, almost daily on that video, and people always assume I hate it for reasons that some other people hate it. I hate it because it was bad, and I DNF'd 80 pages in, and like I had read and owned almost every book he's written. I've been reading him since it was announced that he was going to finish the Wheel of Time. I have a Bridge 4 tattoo, and I still dropped Sanderson. I had realized that I hadn't really enjoyed any of his books for years, like the ones I did when I was younger, and then finally seeing kind of where it was just going to get wilder and dumbed down and ugh, I finished up. But DNF Red Sister today. Yeah, I don't get the hype for that series. Like the opening is great. I will give you that. The opening is fantastic, but it wasn't. I thought it was just fine. I finished it. I'm pretty sure this was years ago. I believe I finished it, but I had no desire to read the rest at all. I was not at all compelled, and I never tried Girl in the Stars. Um, I ended up trying the book that wouldn't burn because it was new and it sounded kind of cool and didn't like that either, and so I just have not been back to Lawrence. But hey, that's totally fine. So the whole point of doing this live is because if people show up and chat, it makes it a lot more entertaining than me just spending, half an hour sorting books around quietly. Um, so you're totally good. You know, I still, while I complain about Sanderson, it's also the thing I will say is Sanderson is phenomenal intro fantasy, and that's why he excels. Kind of people who are casually looking to get into fantasy, Sanderson stuff. There's a lot of it. It is widely available. It is very easy reading. It's simple prose, and he does have a lot of cool ideas and has done a lot of cool stuff. So wow, I'm just at a point. I've been reading fantasy and I've really moved on to so much more stuff over time. So I started reading Sanderson when I was like, I don't know, a teenager. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but whatever year they announced he was finishing the Wheel of Time is when I started. So I mean, I was a teenager and I kept reading and I just got kind of tired of it. And I just, yeah, it's for me, I've moved on and I've gotten really into authors like Janny Wirtz and Stephen Donaldson and Guy Gavin Kay and Kate Elliott and Tad Williams and Robert Jordan's always a favorite for me too. And I I just like different stuff now. I don't know that's why like I don't usually like bash Sanderson constantly or anything, but I got real tired of him and just kind of moved on. But I admire your dedication. I legitimately, it was 80 pages, and it was that chapter in like the shop with Syl, and I hard quit, and I never looked back, and I unhauled most of my books, which thankfully, because Sanderson is so popular, I sold my collection very easily, and for pretty good prices. You're going to be disappointed because it is Kirkland Kentucky bourbon. I have no idea what brand it is. I don't know what brand it's supposed to be. Uh, I don't do anything super fancy. My go-to is Four Roses. I actually quite like Four Roses. But last time I was at Costco, and I don't live one near anymore. I'm a couple hours away. So last time I was there, I'm like, you know what? They got a big thing of bourbon on a display that was on sale. So Kirkland bourbon it is. Um, it's not bad. It really is not bad. But I'm cheap, and so I don't like to spend a whole lot of money. But um, ooh, see, I also like it's one of those things. I know I'm not going to like guitar, but I almost am tempted to like try that just for the rant at some point. Just because I don't know. I probably won't because I have too many things that I want to read. But um, it's sometimes some of that stuff can be fun. And like Tom Orange, he read and actually really had a fun time with the Fourth Wing series. And like he acknowledged that there were a lot of things that made it not like technically good, but he had a lot of fun with it overall. And so it's you can still enjoy what you enjoy. And like that's not something I think I'm going to enjoy, but I would be curious just to see sometimes. But glad Sanderson encourages more people to try fantasy. I'm also hitting this or whatever. Yeah, I think that's the core thing. It's like wow, he's gotten ginormous now, and things have gone, but it's still so many people have picked up fantasy because of Sanderson. I've specifically met no people who started reading again because of Sanderson, and so that's why like I try not to constantly crap on the guy. He's done a lot of good for the genre, and so yeah, yes, I have read The Witch Rose. I have. Where are they? I'm. Where are they? Oh, that's right. They're kind of odd sized, so they're actually up here a little bit off screen. But I actually did a um, I actually got a physical arc for the Witch Roads, which was super cool because Kate Elliott also got Tor to stop being mean to me on that galley, and now they approve me for stuff again. Um, I did really enjoy them. Now, I will say, Crown of Stars is a top 10 series for me. It is one of my favorites. It's my favorite thing that she's written, and I doubt anything else is going to overtake it, although I've enjoyed everything that I've read from her. Witch Roads is very different. It's much more modern in styling, and it's kind of um, it has a lot of shades of the stuff that I love with like the world building, but it's a different kind of story. Although the I really enjoyed it, but then the Nameless Land just kind of like revved up a lot of the stuff and did it. And I'm kind of biased. I really love Kate Elliott's writing style and the way that she world builds. And so I really love them. But yeah, Crown of Stars is definitely a favorite. Witch Road's duology I really enjoyed, but it's not going to be like a favorite all time. I am going to read though. So here you go, Ryan. She has coming out in January, The Flower Court, which is I think more almost romantasy. It's in the same world but with different characters, and I don't expect to like it very much, but I'm going to read it because it's Kate Elliott, and the only Kate Elliott book I ever read and did not like was her like YA Court of Fives series. I read the first book and it was a YA book, and it was one of those books that just does all the YA stuff that I specifically don't like about YA. And so I did not get on with it at all. But again, I didn't expect to. I'm not the audience for that one. And like I ended up giving my copy to my niece, and yeah, just went from there, and it was fine. But yeah, I quite enjoyed the Witch Roads, but yeah, Crown of Stars is just I love Crown of Stars so much. So I love to hear that you're enjoying that because it is fantastic. I'm very excited to get to that as well. And for some reason, Spirit Gate is I've been like leaning here forever, so I'm gonna sit down because I'm very distracted from book organizing, but it's totally fine. Um, Uh, Spirit Gate is also, especially after the second time, I think, the first or the second time, I don't know, when I had Kate Elliott on the channel, she very specifically mentioned that Spirit Gate was just like her just messing around with all kinds of cool fantasy stuff she had always wanted to do. And so I'm really excited. I sampled it and it seemed very interesting. And it's Kate Elliott, so again, gonna read it, probably going to enjoy it. But for some reason, it's that book I just never seem to get to. And partially it's because I keep wanting to read that, but then she's got new stuff coming out, so I get to the new stuff. Um, and so yeah, I that is the one I really want to get to next. Although I ended up doing the first Duran book for Backlist Book Club. We had Duran on there. Speaking of which, Duran is I still need to actually film a full length review for that. But I mentioned in my wrap up, Duran feels almost like it would be a great fit for the modern romantasy crowd because it is. I feel like it almost counts as a romantasy book. Romance is pretty heavily featured and a pretty big important part of the plot, and so wasn't a big fan of that, but it's still, even though that's like really early Kate Elliott, and it's also sci-fi, but it's sci-fi with definitely some fantasy elements, but it still had that way of just world building as you go and expanding things as you go and just doing some cool things, and it explores really in depth this culture on this alien planet basically, and so it was still very interesting. You know, I didn't know if you were or not, but it's one of those things that sometimes people get really grumpy at you. Um, I'm just, yeah, Four Roses isn't like a super fancy one or anything, but I quite like them. But I've had some nicer ones that are good, but I'm also like, I don't want to pay like $50 for a small bottle of really fancy bourbon when I could get good bourbon. I'm kind of the same way with wine. I, um, I really quite enjoy, I like dry white, but like I like a nice glass of Pinot Grigio, maybe a Sauvignon Blanc, but I don't want to pay like a bunch of money for an allegedly good wine when I can get a cheaper bottle that I really like. I don't get like bottom of the barrel, but most of my favorites are quite cheap, and I'm fine with that. And I've tried more expensive wines, and I've enjoyed some, but overall, I'm just like I'm going to stick with the ones that are very affordable and also delicious. Side note, um, my favorite Sauvignon Blanc is Matua, which is like a uh, $11 to $15 a bottle, depending on where you find it. Costco has a version that is, I don't know if it is actually the same, but it's very similar. It's like $4 a bottle. And so I always get one when I'm in there because it is like, it's my favorite and it's like $4 there. So I think I actually have some of that still. So, um, Now, see, we went from the early part of the stream is me complaining about books being different sizes. Now we've gone to alcohol and romantasy. So this has taken a strange turn. Um, but fair enough, fair enough. Uh, I'm assuming that's another Akatar book, but I don't. I only know Throne of Glass. So yes, yeah. I was gonna say I know you did. That's right. Um, yeah, I do want to continue, but it's not super priority for me either because it's less my thing. But I also am very curious to see where the story goes at the same time. Yeah, that's probably fair. That's probably fair. Plus, Crown of Stars is so good. Yeah, I love Crown of Stars. It's I've still there's for like what book is it? It's like the I don't know. It's one of the later books. There is a review that ticks me off every time because it's just this person like complaining that like the author lost control of the story and like this stuff doesn't make sense and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, it does make sense though. Like if you don't like the book, that's fine. But there's like a really big plot point that's been there since book one that is just coming to fruition, and they're like, it doesn't make any sense. Why is this coming back up? I'm like, that's a like we're bringing back something that's been there. Anyway, um, yeah, I love Crown of Stars. Um, I've definitely heard other fans. Most people don't love it as much as I do, but again, Elliot, I love the world building. And Crown of Stars is such a masterclass in world building, in my opinion, because you start off with just sort of your basic sort of like medieval-ish setting, and it feels almost historical fictiony. There's an inciting incident that's very fantasy, but you don't have a ton of fantasy elements. And then every book you get a little bit more of the fantasy elements introduced. Every single book, there's more, and it's just like and it's done in a really good way. And like you can see, like maybe in book one there's talk of like people talk about they used to tell stories about these things or something, and then like the book five they're real and you see like it's just it's so good. I love the way she does it, and some of the stuff that she adds in there that also it fits so well and it makes so much sense to me. It's just great time for sure. uh, da, da, da. I think a lot of the really popular series, one of the reasons they are popular is because they're accessible. And there's something to be said about accessible books. And that's where, again, it's just like, I feel like I'm guilty of it too. But you get a lot of people who complain a lot about the accessible books because, like, it's so basic. But, you know, a casual reader, if they pick up a book like, Janie Wirtz or like Donaldson or like, a lot of like the authors, and they're just like, oh gosh, this is very difficult to read. This must be what all fantasy is like. And then they might not want to check it out. So there's a reason accessible books are popular. And also, it is really nice to just do easier entertainment books sometimes. And it's not what I want all the time, but I do enjoy my my popcorn reads every now and then too. Which is actually I mentioned earlier in my rant about different sizes, but the Vlad Tautos series by Stephen Bruce has been a phenomenal popcorn series for me. They're so entertaining, and I'm really into the series overall. I'm a good chunk of the way through. This is why I just bought the fifth bind up of the books, which is like what number is this? The first one has three. I think the next three have two. So three, five, seven, nine. So this would be like 10 and 11, I think then. It's like I'm pretty far into the series. I think I'm actually on nine though, still in the other one. Um, but yeah, they're really entertaining. They're very short. They're very easy to get through, and it's fun to have some stuff like that too. And then I just actually finished False Idol by Tobias Youngblood, which is the third book in the Projectionist trilogy. And these books are so hard to describe because it's sort of like a neo-noir urban epic fantasy. They're so hard to describe because there's just so much going on. And it can be a little bit messy at times, but it is just absolutely wild and entertaining, and you never know what you're going to get, but in such a fun way. So it's not my normal kind of read, but there's a prequel that's more so like epic fantasy, like high fantasy type of stuff, less of the urban side. And so he got me to try that first, and I'm like, this is really cool. I love the stuff going on, and then it just gets even wilder in the series. So definitely something to be said. about that for sure. Just stuff that's fun and easy to read. Oh, is it? Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Uh, Ooh, yes. Okay, so Child of Flame is actually my favorite book in the series. So very excited for this. It is Child of Flame it features a very Robin Hobb-esque plot line, which is tragic and beautiful and compelling. And it also is a big turning point where you get some really cool world building stuff. Of course, I love world building, so some really, really great stuff in Child of Flame. It's my favorite book of the series. So very exciting, very exciting. I should I should probably actually organize some books again. But this has been really fun chatting here too. So, side note, look how cool the back of this is. This is my again Barnes and Noble like $25 leather copy, and that looks so cool. I really do need to read The Divine Comedy. It's been on my list forever, and I have this fancy copy of it, but I have not actually read it yet. But we're gonna take that down because that's also kind of the red color. I need to take multiple things down though to make this fit, and that's kind of a bummer. So I'm trying to think if I should try to fit some stuff here, but then I'd have to move other hardcovers here. So it just depends on how much I want to move of this stuff. There's a little bit of room there. It's so hard moving books. I don't know why it has to be so difficult. Because anything I move is going to make me have to move other stuff. I could move. These are different sizes, so those are candidates that could move. But is this is the size of the smaller one, so that doesn't really help me a whole lot either. It's just a darn size problem again. Oh gosh, yeah. Well, good night, and thanks for stopping by. I say it's after 10 here, and this is very late for me. That's where I called it late night because I started this around 9, and when you have a 2-year-old, that's very late at night. So it's funny though because the longer we've gone, more people have shown up. So at least other people are either night owls or have a time zone that that makes it more doable. Um, Fun times. Okay, so we can probably also take La Mort de Arthur, which this is a also shockingly cheap, like $25 copy from some publisher. I've actually also not read this yet, and I do. Canterbury Classics made this one. I really need to read this one as well. I'm very familiar with the story, but I haven't actually read it. So the thing I'm stuck here is if I put this here, it's not actually going to be on screen when I record videos, but it's also super bland, and I don't feel like I really need it to be on screen because I'm complaining about it again, but it just really is disappointing, I find. Um, I don't know. Just I'm very whelmed with the Dragonsteel Eye of the World. I will not be getting any of the others, to be honest, because they're very expensive, and I wanted to love it if it's going to be expensive. I suppose I could put the other copy of the Eye of the World like on top, because I would like to put these other ones up here. I could probably take down Dune. I like Dune, but this is also not like a super fancy version. So we can move that over. How much room does that give me? How much room do I need? That would let me fit in Obsidian Path, but not quite Grandmaster, which this is too pretty to not put on the shelf, honestly. Oh gosh, 5. Yeah, okay. I I would probably not be awake, honestly. So they're just above, but that's my primary set is the original hardcovers, and that's the thing. I love the cover art of the original hardcovers, and I need to get, actually, I only have the anniversary edition of Eye of the World because I had the Barnes& Noble one and I never got the regular when I later collected them many years after reading them from the library. But I love the original cover. I love the way the spines look on the shelf. So like I'm okay, honestly. I'm okay not getting another special edition copy, but I just got so excited for the Dragonsteel ones because they make really good books, and they're usually also known for being more affordable than most. Um, and yet, I was disappointed. Maybe we should move. I keep Ocean at the end of the lane up there because, despite all of the game and stuff, I love that book. I got rid of all of my other books except for that one because I love that book. Um, but we can probably bump that for Fancy Grandmaster because this is super cool. Or, ooh, you know what? You know what, actually? I think we can fit them both if we remove the hidden copy of Sir Gawain the Green Knight that you can't see anyway on the screen. I have this up there because whatever's here gets kind of cut off because the shelf moves over a bit. So I've kept it there. Oh shoot, why am I moving all of this stuff over? This should be here. And then this should be here. I think that's just barely gonna fit. I'm gonna probably just Sir Gawain set up front. Ooh, that is gonna fit. Very nice. I just have to shift them a little. And we'll just, yeah, we'll set Sir Gawain over there. It'd be off screen. You weren't able to see it before anyway, but I do have this as the, now you're a little bit cut off of this super cool copy of The Three Musketeers. Which I got this at a used bookstore, and it was, I can't remember exactly what I paid for it, but it's an old Easton press. And again, it's you know, kind of plain, but also pops, and it's got these like copper textured sheets in here, and just like a really nicely well-made book that doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart like the end pages of this new Eye of the World already feel like they're going to fall apart, which is a whole nother thing I didn't even mention in my complaining video. But I think that pretty well does it. So I feel like I'll need to find some better spots probably for the stuff that I've removed. Um, yeah, it's a really cool copy. And I have Count of Monte Cristo is one of my all-time favorite novels as well. And I love this Barnes & Noble edition as well, which again, Barnes & Noble, I will always give them credit for their leather bounds because they're obviously they're not like super, super premium, but they're nice looking books and they're pretty good quality and they hold up. Now this one I bought used from someone else because they didn't have them in print and they later got them back in print and I almost got another copy because this one's kind of a little bit, you know, some like scratches, but I have this because it's cool. I've never read from this copy though, because my preferred copy is my old, very beat up Penguin Classics version. I like this particular the translation, and I also really like the. It's got a lot of footnotes, and when I was reading this before, I really specifically liked this one. So I also have that. But then I somewhat recent, well, it was a while back. Um, I got this cool little box set, super cheap, which has Monte Cristo and then all of the D'Artagnan romances. And I still need to read. I've read Three Musketeers, but I've never actually finished reading all of the rest of the series. So I definitely need to get to that at some point as well. So there's definitely that. So, ooh, see, you shouldn't have told me that there's a new translation because I'm probably going to be wanting now. I have another copy. I might have, I don't remember if I got rid of it actually. I might have, but I might have not. So I had a really, it was just a basic copy, but it just looked really nice of 20 Years After. And oh, I do still have it actually. because you can never have too many Dumas books apparently. But um, I have this. It's just the basic copy, but I like it for whatever reason. So I don't know. I'm a sucker for the hardcovers, but I have that box set, which will be really good reading copies for the rest of the series that I don't have copies of. So that's why I couldn't pass them on. Hey, I understand. I did not start my collection for a long, long time, and it spiraled over many years. But yeah, it went from very humble origins to eventually more so. So hopefully the same will happen for you. But I totally get that. I was a pretty much a library only reader for many, many years, um, and so I now collection is a little bit crazy, but very lucky to be able to get the books that I do. Um, and yeah, so I totally feel it. The Musketeer Cycle is the first full translation. What is? Oh, which is that? Is that the one that I have, or is that a different one? Because I hate reading abridged books, which is also why I really like my Penguin copy of Monte Cristo, because it's not. Oh, this is the I don't know, it's Alexander Dumas collection. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to check because if these are abridged, I'm gonna be very upset. These are from Wilco, and Wilco is um, sort of discount, but nice. I didn't actually realize those were Wilco, but I had a copy. I got this. It was absolutely beautiful, like faux leather Ernest Hemingway collection, and I got it for like $8. It was very cheap. I couldn't believe it was so cheap, but it's from like a brand that just prints really nice looking but cheap books, and I'm like, sign me up. Pretty books that are affordable. But then I found out that Hemingway is not an author for me, and so I don't have it anymore. Sadly. Um, But yeah, I'll have to check on those because I don't know. I know the this Monte Cristo is one of the anonymous translations because they didn't have to pay to use it, and so I have no idea how it would be, but that's why I've stuck. And I haven't read it in. It's been quite a few years at this point, but I've read Monte Cristo several times over the years, and it's just I really do love it. So I really need to get. So I really enjoyed the Three Musketeers as well. And then I think I started 10 years after, which is not the next one you're supposed to read. I think maybe that's why I was very confused. And also, like, the copy that the library was able to get was almost like it looked like it was formatted like a screenplay. It was super weird. And I just ended up quitting because of that, because it just was an odd copy. Um, and then I, for some reason, just never got back to it and just kept reading Count of Monte Cristo for many years after that. So one of those things. One of those things. So I am realizing that I still have a slight gap here. I need one other book right there because that's where the Book of Zerb is going to go. But it's too tall and didn't fit. And whenever I get the new Carl book, I'm gonna have to move things around a little bit because it's gonna need to go there. But I have a couple of kind of miscellaneous hardcovers on the edge, so I think I'll be okay with that. But that's the only. I need the new Carl book, but I really have been barring literally the last big book haul because I sold my old house and had a little bit of money to buy fun stuff. I've been very, very limited with my book buying for the last couple of years. Um, so I've not gotten a ton of new stuff. Um, so I mostly just use stuff as I come across. I'm still like trying to collect my Geiger of K in hardcover, which can be very difficult. And like things like that. Series authors I'm collecting and picking up mostly. But Ellsworth decided to translate the full trilogy as well as two novels of Count of Moray. Um, oh, first complete translation. Okay, I'm gonna have to check these out because I'm a sucker for Dumas. Um, yeah, I'm gonna most certainly have to check those out. So I really appreciate that. I'm actually, in fact, I'm going to type up Lawrence Ellsworth. Because I want to just make sure that I don't forget about this. So this is interesting. So yeah, 9 volumes. Huh. I don't know. That's really cool. So I'm gonna definitely have to check those out. I'm kind of afraid of how much it'll cost, but I have to check them out for sure and see. Because yeah, sucker for some Dumas. All right. So I need to move. I'm probably gonna just put these books I pulled off. Well, dude will fit down here. I'm gonna put the other ones over on my other shelf that's off screen for now. And then I need a paperback of that particular size to put on the shelf. And then I think we're going to wrap up because it is getting quite late. I Googled it and I believe that I found it's swashbucklingadventure.net, if that's the right one. If it's not, ping me on Discord or something. But this looks to be the right one. But yeah, I was gonna say, I know YouTube will yell at you if you try to link. Okay, cool. So I do. That's where I was legitimately like, I'm looking it up now because I don't want to forget, because I definitely want to look into that. For sure, for sure. So this would help if I get the Aspect Emperor books I'm missing. They would fit right here. I thought I had the next one, which is, I think, The Judging Eye. Is the one I have next to read. And I thought I had that one, and I actually don't physically have it, but I need to read it soon. I need to get the rest of those. But this is a pretty solid. Oh, you know what? I know exactly what can go here. On the other side, I have a couple of Sean Russell books, and I just got one of them out, and it should fit right back over. Moontide Magic Rise. Still need to read it. Still seems super cool, but that will fit, I think, about perfect. In here with its fellows, River into Darkness and the Initiative Brother. That leaves a tiny gap, but that's pretty solid. I think that'll do. So we got our Sideways books up top. Gotta have the Sideways books. Does this not fit anywhere else either? That would fit over here? Maybe I should put this over here. But now there's not room because I put the well. Oof, doesn't quite fit. Maybe after some. We're gonna leave it Cold Silver for Souls. We'll stay a Sideways book for now. I think it's at least in frame with Haunt on the Island of Esmer. Also highly recommend that one. Really good one. But yeah, we'll stay Sideways. The other Derek Bailey, that's what's on the other side. Okay, well, I think we're organized, and it looks like most people are popping off here too. It's probably pretty good timing, but this has been fun. It would have been much more efficient to not do this live on YouTube for sure, but it's always so much more fun to do it. So thanks for everyone for coming out and hanging out with me for a little bit. I feel, oh no, there are more books. Well, they probably aren't going to go on the shelf right now. I totally forgot. There are actually a few more over there. I don't know that I'm going to, yeah, they probably, I got this copy of the first Sharing Knife book in a short hardcover, which I didn't have, so that's just going to be a Sideways book on the Boojel shelf, which I might have to shift again. There it is. I'm not going to put, I had this illustrated Gorman Gas that was sent to me. I'm not going to put this up right now because I'm going to be reading this very shortly from this specific copy, but this will have to find a place to live. Also, amidst the hardcovers somewhere. So that is future Nico's problem, though, because I don't need to find a spot right now. And then the only other things that I need to find a spot for is I just got the Collegium Chronicles in a matching short hardcover set. Those, though, can probably go up top because they're the same size. And I'm looking at getting some more. I found somebody on Pengo had some Saberhagen books I was looking at. So, but you won't quite fit up there either. So maybe these will hang out down here for a little bit because I got to figure out where they're gonna go. So they'll sit over here for now. It'll be fine. I'll have to see what I think of those here anyway. But yeah, again, trying to organize by size always comes back to bite me, for sure. There really are, that's where it's like I joke. I went from having like no physical books to very, very slowly accumulating, and then I ended up just um, exploding over time, which BookTube had a lot to do with as well here. So yeah, I had the much more reasonably priced, just basic paperbacks, but that was sent to me as a gift by one of my patrons, Heidi, which is a super nice gift because it's a very nice quality book. And the illustrations are wild too. Like they're just kind of strange, and so I think that'll be a really fun experience to read. That I've been really intrigued to try Gorman Gas for quite some time because it really does seem like it's going to be up my alley. So I'm very very curious to see what I end up thinking about it. But there are a few other things over there, but they don't need to go on the shelf now because I got a couple more classics, and typically my like regular classics go also on the other shelf because there's there's more shelves hiding as well here too. We have the ones back here, and then I have the overflow. I have a half shelf for new books, and I have some built-ins where all my mass market paperbacks live. To be fair though, um, four of the five shelves have nothing on the bottom row because I don't like having books all the way on the bottom for the most part. And most of these are really cheap Target shelves where you have to arrange these shelves really weird to get them to be a normal size. So you get another one, then you cannibalize the shelves. Um, so I have all of them with four shelves, and then it's a big space down below where there is. I have records down there. I have a lot of equipment, batteries, and a few other miscellaneous things I keep down there. But my new office has some small built-in shelves, so that's where mass market paperbacks and like my paper mill classics and stuff like that are over there as well here too. I am remembering I took a bunch of books off the shelf to film a September TBR video, and I have not filmed that particular video yet. So that's also where there's some other books hiding that is probably not seeing. But it takes time, and it can creep up on you. But that's yeah. I had one small shelf, and I had a handful of books I slowly picked up, and then I ended up actually finding uh, almost my entire set of Wheel of Time books at a half price books one day for a really good price and getting them there. And that was one of the early things because I've been reading Wheel of Time since I was a kid, and my library had books one and books three. They ended up keeping book two for me, thankfully, but I would go and I'd read them and I'd have them interlibrary load the next book, and I would do it constantly. I read that series so many times when I was young. I like would read it like annually, and so getting that hardcover sale of time was like such a great thing at the time. And then so many of my books is like we happen to be sorting the fancy shelf, which I've been able to get over time. But so many of my books, the vast majority, I've bought used or gotten deals. And then being on BookTube too, sometimes I get review copies, and authors will send me stuff there too. But yeah, I still try to get things as affordably as possible. But once your collection starts exploding, it can be a problem. And I've had that too. So that's why I've worked on trying to keep the collection somewhat manageable. And yeah, I've unhauled a lot. I try to unhaul regularly when I have books that I don't think I'm gonna want anymore, or like I read something I don't care for, and not buy a bunch of books in the series and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so it's one of those things, but it is a pretty crazy collection for sure. So um, yeah, Wheel of Time was my favorite for like most of my life. It was my first like big fantasy series. I've had some other stuff, but then it was finally somehow overtaken by Words of Light and Shadow, but it still holds down that number 2 spot. So yeah, that's right. I did some like Dragonlance, some miscellaneous stuff, Wizard of Earthsea, stuff like There, I had read some other stuff oh, and also Prydain, which is up there. I read when I was really little, and then found it again as an adult. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again, but I do need to go because it's getting very late my time, and I'm normally in bed or on my way to bed by this time. So I'll I'll wrap up for real this time. I got the missing books away, but thanks again everybody for coming out and chatting. This was a lot of fun, and I'll see you guys later.